Another year, another whodunit. Hi everybody, Anthony here from Awesome Man Theme Productions. Today I'm going to give you my review of the latest murder and mystery from writer-director Rian Johnson, Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery. But before we get started, please leave a like, and at the end of the video, if you think I've earned it, please subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified whenever I post. Now on to the review. Wake Up Dead Man stars Josh O'Connor as Father Judd Duplessis, a young priest and former boxer that's relocated to a small parish in rural New York. There he meets Josh Brolin's Monsignor Jefferson Wicks and the small congregation of Our Lady of Perpetual Fortitude, including Glenn Close's Martha, Wicks's right hand, Jeremy Renner's Nat Sharp, the town doctor, Kerry Washington's Vera Draven, a lawyer, Andrew Scott's Lee Ross, a former best-selling sci-fi author, Kaylee Spaney's Simone Vavain, a former cellist that lives with chronic pain, Daryl McCormack's Cy Draven, an aspiring politician and Vera's adopted son, and Thomas Hayden Church's Samson Holt, Martha's lover and the church's groundskeeper. But when a murder strikes this small community and leaves Judd as the main suspect, the town sheriff Geraldine, played by Mila Kunis, is all over him.
You're the only one on stage with the Monsignor at the time of his killing. And you're the only one at that church who hated his guts.
So Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc must once again solve the case. Look, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think this is my favorite film in the trilogy. Knives Out was great, if not a little on the nose with his messaging, while Glass Onion just kind of annoyed me with how silly and very on the nose it was. But this is a personal, thoughtful, beautiful movie, one that's somehow the darkest in the trilogy while also being the most hopeful. To start, just like the first two, the cast here is incredible. As Father Judd Duplessis, Josh O'Connor is a scene stealer. He's absolutely incredible here. He truly grounds the movie from his very first scene, with Judd being a complex, empathetic character that brings a lot of warmth, sympathy, and quiet humor to the screen. O'Connor handles both the more humorous parts of the script and the emotionally resonant parts expertly, especially whenever he's talking about his faith and what his relationship to God means to him. He plays so well off the rest of the cast too, whether he's offering a sympathetic ear to members of the church or doing his best not to explode when everybody starts treating him like a cold-blooded killer. I was just fully invested in this character's journey from beginning to end, and we can really thank Rian Johnson's incredible script and Josh O'Connor's incredible performance for that. I thought this dude totally killed it in Challengers, so he's 2 for 2 in my eyes at this point. As for the rest of the cast, it should be no surprise by the third movie in this trilogy that they're incredible. Kerry Washington is tightly wound and full of understandable rage that feels like she could snap at any minute. Glenn Close is pathetically devoted to the Monsignor and so devoutly faithful that it honestly borders on being a parody of the overly religious, but not in a one-note way. There is so much depth and emotional resonance to this character, and it really makes her stand out. Jeremy Renner, though not having much in the way of characterization here, does a great job playing a depressed drunk hiding a darkness behind his eyes, and I have to say it was really great to see him in his first role since his snowplow accident in early 2023. Daryl McCormack plays slimy douche so perfectly, whether he's shoving his phone in everybody's face to record or talking about all the virtue signaling he did to try to be a politician. Mila Kunis is also great here too, and her no-nonsense verbal sparring with Benoit Blanc adds yet another interesting dynamic that throws a wrinkle into the story at probably the worst possible moments. For the characters, for us it's great. Thomas Hayden Church doesn't have the biggest role here, but he definitely stands out as another member of this toxic fundamentalist parish that just immediately clues you into the hold that the Monsignor has over his entire congregation. Another one I would have liked to see more of is Andrew Scott, who brings this smarmy, holier-than-thou attitude to the film. Also rounding out this cast as the character with probably some of the sketchiest morals here, using the story within the film to profit and revive his book career. Another underutilized cast member here is Kaylee Spaney, who's great as always, but I was pretty disappointed with how little of her we actually got here. She really doesn't have much screen time, though she does make it count, giving a very realistic depiction of a young woman just desperate to be healed, even if it drives her to praying for a miracle in the hands of an evil man disguised as a prophet of God. Speaking of, Josh Brolin as Monsignor Jefferson Wicks is amazing, delightfully evil in a very realistic way. The type of asshole that gives the Catholic Church a bad rap with his rantings about the sins of man and fighting the corruption of the modern world. He really is the opposite side of the same coin that Judd is on, with his angry and judgmental sermons and attacks of the people around him, really fueling Judd to go deeper into his mission to bring God's love to everyone, not just the people that Wicks deems worthy. You just really love to hate him, and Brolin just relishes in this role. And of course, I can't talk about a Knives Out movie without mentioning Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc.
This goes way beyond normal police work.
He's truly refined and perfected this role by now, and here he's even more of a scene stealer than Josh O'Connor. And he doesn't even show up until like 40 minutes into the movie. Craig is just as full of southern drawl and kindness as the first two films, but he's much more introspective and grounded here, relying less on humor and more on digging into the actual mystery, which is very much in line with the tonal shift that this film brings to the series. That's not to say he's devoid of humor though. Once again, much of the humor in this film comes from James Bond himself, himself and his observation and commentary of the people and events unfolding around him, and I just loved all of it, especially a scene with him using a church organ to interrupt a group argument by playing a very loud rendition of the opening riff to Phantom of the Opera. I also really loved whenever he and Judd interacted. O'Connor and Craig play so well off of each other, and their dynamic of a faith-filled priest forced to work with a staunch unbeliever adds a lot of interesting moments of dialogue. There's more than one moment of them having a faith versus logic debate, and I was locked in every time. To touch a bit more on the tone here, I really love this movie's shift from the summer vacation aesthetic of Glass Onion to a more gothic, serious tone. The incredible cinematography by Steve Yedlin just boosts this too, with the film's small-town religious community offering some truly breathtaking views of overgrown woods, crypts, and gothic architecture that really gives this movie an otherworldly, eerie feeling. I forgot that it took place in New York until the very end, if that tells you anything. I mentioned too that the comedy here is much more restrained than the last two films, especially with just how silly Glass Onion ended up being. It relies less on campiness and meta jokes.
Makes me sick. These kids painting rocket ships all over his sacred resting place.
Instead leaning more on dry wit and certain subtle humor that you might actually miss the first time around. This film also dives hard into more weighty subjects like faith, guilt, religion in the modern world, and the spiritual struggle taking place inside of our main character. Returning composer Nathan Johnson also adds some unconventional motifs and themes throughout to add to that more dark and eerie aesthetic, like a slowed down cello or different parts of the orchestra playing out of sync, which really brings in a feeling of unease in many scenes. Lastly, I've got to just bring up the writing here because this might be the tightest and strongest script in this franchise's history. The mystery has just enough twists and turns to keep you guessing until the very end, the dry humor lands nearly every time, and those more somber themes I brought up earlier are given the weight and time they deserve. I just really love the way that this film dealt with faith and what it means to worship in 2025, doing so respectfully while leaving way for a hopeful ending that left me with a smile on my face. If I had any complaints here, it would be that, once again, like I said before, I think that some of the cast is very underutilized here, specifically Andrew Scott, Kaylee Spaney, and Thomas Hayden Church. Plus the fact that, even though it tied together and I thought that all the twists and turns worked pretty well, the ending exposition dump revealing the whole thing and clearing up the mystery was a little clunky for me. Besides that though, overall, in my opinion, this is the best film of the trilogy, and actually one of the best films of 2025. It's dark, thematically rich, spiritually grounded, and dryly funny at all the right points, with an incredible cast anchored by a complex, empathetic performance from Josh O'Connor, a tight mystery that will keep you guessing until the end, jaw-dropping cinematography that leans fully into this gothic atmosphere, a suspenseful, dreadful score, and a hopeful ending that should leave a positive impact on anyone that sees it. And that's my review of Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this review, you know exactly what to do. Please leave a like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to be notified whenever I post. While you're at it, you can scroll down in the comments, let me know if you saw this movie and what you thought. And if you want more of my content, you can click or tap on these cards right here. They'll take you to my review of Silent Night, Deadly Night, or just over to my channel where you can check out the rest of my reviews. Thanks for watching, everybody. I am definitely posting my review of Avatar: Fire and Ash on Christmas Eve as a gift to you, but we'll see if I post a second review that week, so let me know. Do you want to see a review of the new thriller The Housemaid, or on the other end of the spectrum, the new SpongeBob movie, or am I just waiting until New Year's Eve for a review of Marty Supreme or Anaconda? Let me know, and I'll see you next time for Avatar.